Hello, and welcome to our CIO panel, Digital Transformation and Hospitality. I'm David Meltzer, Group Vice President of Global Hospitality Sales here at Oracle, and I'm excited to welcome 4 renowned CIOs who are leading the way in digital transformation for their hotel chains. Today, they will share with you their vision and approach to cloud, how cloud applications and technology investments have helped their business during the pandemic, and how it will accelerate their growth moving forward. Please welcome Jeffrey Cohen, CIO of Sonesta International Hotels, Christian Palomino, Vice President of Global IT for Malia Hotels International, Sanjay Sharma, Head of Information Technology for Jumeirah Group, and Scott Strickland, Executive Vice President and CIO of Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Thank you all for joining me today. We have lots of great things to discuss, so let's get started. Moving to the cloud requires significant change in both IT and in hotels. How are you managing that change? And if you could answer that question and include a perspective from your guests as well as your team members, that would be fantastic. Let's start with Jeffrey.
Well, for us, managing the change was somewhat forced on us because we grew from 50 hotels to over 1,000 hotels in a matter of 6 months. So quite frankly, the cloud wasn't a part of our conversation because we had no options. We had to do the cloud. There was no way to scale the organization in a way that made sense. So it's been interesting that it's not been part of the dialogue, but its benefits have been part of the dialogue. So our focus on managing that change in some ways to the IT side has been harder. In that we had to really get everyone to understand what does it mean not to own technology, to, how do you think about our relationships with our vendors in a different way? How do you really have more partnership with the vendors in a way? Because you have less control in some cases. So you need to sort of understand how to intertwine all parts of the IT organization into the cloud environment. And then for our business partners, the conversation is to help them get out of talking about technology and really focus on the business process so that they can focus on innovating the business, because we've got the technology from the cloud providers now, right? And they're focused on the aspects of innovation and capabilities and things like that. So for the business, it's been somewhat freeing to the organization. And to our guests, hopefully it's seamless, quite frankly. And that as obviously things have been surging in certain situations, right? Our Wednesdays can be, dead, and our Saturdays can be completely packed. And so the ability for an organization to, surge in capabilities when that happens, hopefully has eased any of the interactions from them.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Sanjay, what about at Jumeirah Group?
Very good question, David. If you ask me, I don't think that we are living in an age which we used to call mobile first. This is the age what we call as mobile first and remote first. And I really want you to focus on the later part here, what we mean by remote first. It actually impacts, like you said correctly, the staff, the hotel. It impacts the guest, and it impacts all the application. If you really want to ensure that you are able to serve your guest at any remote location where they are, whether they are sitting at a sunbed in one corner of your beach, or maybe you want your staff or your colleague front office staff to check in your guest while they are arriving, while they are on move, you need to ensure that your services are available at the preferred channel of your guests and whenever they need it. If you need to make it happen, you have to move to the cloud. We have taken a very, very aggressive journey on this. I'm proud to share that most of our applications are either already in cloud or we are in the plan to in the journey to move to cloud. And I believe, like I said earlier, that even our guests, they need Jumeirah product and services at every corner, and similarly the employees also. So that is why I believe that this is a major journey which we have taken over in this, David.
Thank you, Sanjay. Buenas tardes, Christian. How about from the Malia perspective?
Hi, buenas tardes. I hope from the guest perspective is seamless. Unless they follow any of our profiles in LinkedIn, they shouldn't have any idea that we're moving into the cloud, and they shouldn't care about that. So I hope the only thing they see is that they have more availability and they have more digital services available faster and smoother than ever. In terms of IT, it's been a huge change, because at the beginning, when you start deploying cloud, you adapt your current processes to deal with the subtle difference or the huge difference that you have in the cloud. But then to unlock the full value of moving into the cloud, you need to really change your processes and the way you govern, secure, and keep compliance of your IT stack with the cloud in it. You see in Agile and DevOps should accompany the movement into the cloud to make your company and your IT more agile and be able to deliver more digital experiences sooner and in a more robust way. For the hotels, it also has been a change, because we've moved many of the investment the owners of the properties had to do before opening with our brands in servers and other infrastructure to a more OpEx oriented approach. They have to deal with more secure and better communications, it's true, but at the same time they get rid of servers in their data centers in the properties, and they can use that space for more business-oriented purposes.
Thank you. Scott, at Wyndham, you're one of the largest hotel chains in the world. How are you managing through this change?
Thanks, David. It has been a journey. If we take a look about 4 years ago or so, we actually had physical data centers that we owned and operated internally within IT. 2 years ago or so, we had none. We're kind of in a hybrid state now. And a year from now, we're going to have 100% of our workload in the cloud globally. So how do you get through that change with an organization this size? There's the carrot and the stick. On the carrot side, what's in it for me? You know, if you're in IT right now, why is it a benefit for me to move to the cloud? So we always explain that, and I'll give a couple examples. The stick is, it's non-negotiable. This is where we're headed, and here's why. So if we take a look internally, for us as we came into summer, and Jeffrey was covering a little bit of this as well, we ran end-to-end testing coming into the summer, hoping, like all of my peers, that we were going to have a great high-demand summer. Because we were primarily in the cloud, what we found is it scaled up. It was elastic. It worked like it was supposed to as we ran that testing. So that's great. And even at our peak this summer, which was greater than our peak in 2019, we didn't have any problems. So right away, the internal team saw a lot of benefits on that. The guest, as others have said, it should be seamless to them. They shouldn't care at all whether we've moved to the cloud or not. However, what it does enable for the guest is more capabilities. Because as you move to the cloud, you remove the shackles of the old infrastructure, and suddenly you have things like APIs. APIs improve integration. APIs allow you to bring new solutions out to those guests that maybe they didn't have before. Kiosks, for example, or vending machines with hot food on demand are suddenly very, very possible, whereas in the past, they would have required years of integration and work from the teams. So it's been a great journey, and I'm really pleased on where we're at.
Thank you, Scott, for that response. Jeffrey, as we emerge from the pandemic, what are the key areas of technology you're most focused on? And what's the biggest opportunity you see?
Well, I'll start with the opportunity. I think our opportunity is to change the mindset more so around the guest. Not that we don't think about that. I think everybody in this industry does. But when we think about our technology, the property management system tends to be sort of the center of gravity of our conversation. And just by the name, property, right, is the center, not the guest. And so our focus is moving forward. Certainly, the property management system is a big part of capturing information in the behavior of our guests. So that's going to be an important key piece. We want to surround that by rich data insight as well as, and they're kind of overlapping, a rich CRM, really thinking through, the 360-degree view of the guests, their behaviors, not just in their reservation patterns, but what food they're eating, connecting the POS information into that, and really having a clear understanding of who our guests are and how we can help make their stay better.
Great opportunity there. Scott, how about yourself?
Our approach has always been to build once and use many. We have 21 different brands, and we can't afford to have 21 different solutions. So what we've really been focused on is standardizing platforms to use across every one of those brands. If we take a look at it from a guest perspective, building a little bit on what Jeffrey said, it is about that guest data. We have something called a CDP, a customer data platform, that we've recently implemented that we're going to continue to expand. It basically looks at certainly stay data from the PMS. It also looks at what's the guest history, their browsing history out there, enriching that data with other places they may have visited so that we can better tailor promotions and ultimately campaigns out to them. Building on that guest as well, we're really focused on mobile and contactless. What we found really is that the consumerization of IT accelerated during the pandemic. So now the guest is expecting things that they never expected before. For us, what that has really boiled down to is contactless payments. We've been able to roll out contactless payments to our guests, which is huge for them and huge for our franchisees in terms of efficiency, and the mobile check-in and check-out capabilities. Flipping that a little bit now to our franchisees. Franchisees are small business owners. We have 6,000 franchisees, they're small business owners. What they want to know is, how can I reduce costs or increase revenue? So our key technology there is about increasing revenue. And we're looking at new revenue management solutions for them that we'll be implementing over the next year or so.
Thank you. Sanjay, Scott spoke just now a little bit about innovation. Could you tell me what Jameer Group's doing in terms of cloud adoption and how that's impacting innovation?
I completely agree with Scott, what he said something about innovation and how cloud is accelerating it. Whether you talk in terms of APIs, you talk in terms of how you can get the real-time information, but I think the game changes when basically you are powered by your open architecture-based application on cloud. Now, I think if you just take a few examples on what we are doing on innovation, or if I can just explain it in a few minutes, then you will see that how cloud is powering all these bright ideas, if I may say so. So basically what we are doing, David, is that we are working on 3 parallel streams. The first stream is how we can transform the digital engagement with our consumer, with our guests, so that that can result into a happy customer. But when you have to do that, you have to do a few things. You have to see that how you can anticipate what they expect and how you can provide the product and services in their preferred channel. All these things are possible only when you have a kind of customer genome, what we call, what Scott was talking about, the 360 degree of your customer. So once you have that in your data lake, and then basically you have curated 360-degree view of your customer. I'm very proud to say that as of now, we have 156 attributes of all our customer in our data lake. And we have just rolled out few pilots where using artificial intelligence, we are able to predict that what are the F&B outlets where which we should be recommending to our guests. And trust me, I'm not sure whether I can share the numbers or not, but it is pretty impressive. Yeah. So, and the third thing which we are focusing on is to see that how we can make an invisible operations. And what I mean by invisible operation is that how we can ensure that operation is something which our guests never has to experience in their stay. If you just take the example of what Scott was saying sometime back, as of now, we request our guests to come to the reception desk to check in because it is our need. It's not guest need. Probably what we need to do is that when we reach the next level of auto check-in, as soon as our guests step into our hotel, and repeat, as soon as they step inside our hotel, they should be just having the key in their mobile. And that is possible. And there are some, so in all these three streams, we are working very hard. We are trying to see that how we can move from the gut-driven organization towards a data-driven organization. We are in the process of implementing RPA, and right now we have already implemented close to 11 processes in different domains, whether it is commercial or it is operations or it is finance, which is getting us good value. But underlying all these things is data and cloud.
Thanks for sharing those three examples. Those are really good. Christian, how's cloud adoption impacting Malia?
If you adopt cloud, not just as moving your servers that are in your data center to somewhere out there, and you really transform the way you do IT, unlocking the whole power of the cloud, and accompany the movement to the cloud with digital transformation, cloud becomes a real enabler on innovation in the company, and not only because it speeds up the time to market and the ability to have infrastructures in place to test new things, and also lower the costs of those testing you do, and be able to test small and fast and fail cheap and grow very fast when you have a good idea. The fact of adopting agile methodologies, of integrating IT with the business and mixing teams of business and technology, the fact of putting the customer in as the central thing around everything you build, it's a way not only for technological innovation, but process innovation and customer experience innovation, and it affects the whole company. It starts from IT, but the processes permeate the rest of the company, and it's amazing how something as technical as changing the way you manage your infrastructure and your technology change the whole corporation, the way the whole company works, creating new brands, new experiences for the customer.
So Christian, sticking with that, so how are you determining your deployment strategy? So do you have a different strategy for owned, as an example, versus any non-owned properties?
Yes, yes, of course. From a whole architecture approach, our deployment is based on either business case, so we decide which application systems we want to migrate, or the situation that one application system needs to be updated or changed, or it's at the end of its life cycle, and then we change that thing. In terms of business cases, it's not just cost; it's also the ability to increase revenues, accompany the growth of the company with technology. So those are the things that affect our whole architecture, and when we decide to apply cloud first or later. We started the transformation of our the whole IT stack 6 years ago with the digitalization process, and changing how we contact with the customer and manage our distribution, and right now are also very focused on the back of the house of the company. In terms of own hotels or franchisees or managed hotels, we like to start with our own hotels, mainly because we control the whole business stack from the technology to the P&L of the hotel. So we try with ourselves. And we don't have to ask anyone permission to do it, just to deliver properly. But again, once we have something working on, we put it available to our franchisees and our managed hotels, especially when we have new openings. From the beginning, if the systems are available, we put them at their disposals. There's also a conversation going on with the franchisees regarding some concerns they may have about losing the control of the technology. Many owners of hotels like to keep the control of the technology, so they can switch from one brand to the other depending on their business needs. And this is something where there's a conversation going on, so they can see the value we provide with having infrastructure-less and asset-less IT services for them, and keeping them calm and assured that they keep control of on their data and the data of their customers.
It's an interesting perspective from how an owner is thinking. Sanjay, anything similar for Jumeirah Group there? That
just before I answer that question, David, I just want to highlight two important things why it is so important for us to move to cloud. It's very simple. The first one is that agility. It gives a lot of agility to our business, and then second is cost. But if we just stick to these two things, then I don't think that there is any question here. And again, I'm reiterating what Scott said some time back. This is non-negotiable. We are also going towards the world of platform. We have to move there. Let me give you an example. Till last year, whenever we had to open a new hotel or basically onboard a new hotel, it used to take us almost 2 months to install the PMS and get the people trained. We just started the operation at one of our new hotel here. Everything was done in 2 weeks. Imagine the transformation from 2 months to 2 weeks. So the vision of what we call the hotel in the box will be possible only when we do this. So in summary, we are moving toward the world of platform. Everyone has no option but to move to cloud. We have 3-step strategy. The first is that whenever there is an application, we check whether there's any SaaS option or not. That's our preference number 1. If there's no SaaS option, we move to cloud. And please note that I strongly believe that in this age, you cannot live without your data center, because we are moving to the world of IoT. There will always be a requirement of edge computing, which means there will be some hardware which is still needed in your property. But that's a very clear strategy for us, and we are driving it pretty aggressively.
Great. Well, I'll stick with you then for a follow-up here. So, look, it's been tough economic times for hotels all around the world. Has it been tough for you to convince hotels to invest? And if so, what are you doing to convince them to invest in cloud?
You can actually take a different look at this kind of question. Either you can say it was tough, or probably I would say, if you don't go to me, that it is a huge opportunity for IT world. I strongly believe that IT used to be an order taker. This is the age when we are the true enabler of business. And if you ask me, there is no better time than this. When we were hit with COVID and we were right-sizing the organization, at that point in time, we had to ensure that all our operations are able to seamlessly operate from anywhere in the world, whether our staff is there in their house, or they are somewhere else in a remote location with their family. But in order to do that, we all have witnessed that how technology can help them. And probably, David, that was the opportunity for us. And we have actually leveraged on that opportunity to initiate a number of CapEx initiatives, which will drive innovation at a different scale for us. So that's how I see it. Probably everyone has experienced the challenges which they will face if technology is not able to offer what our consumer want in future. So that is actually helping us to convince our stakeholder, get huge investment in Opera Cloud, get huge investment in what Scott was mentioning some time back about B2B programs, or whether you talk about how we will automate or how we will make our contactless experience at a web we will take it to a different level. So that's how our journey is going on now.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I think we know Scott at Wyndham would use a carrot and a stick to get hotels to invest. What's Sonesta doing?
Well, I kind of believe that you kind of have to understand the wiring of my stakeholders, right? There are, people who, claim to be technologists, but in the end of the day, most of my stakeholders are either financially driven or guest driven in the end of the day. And so those are the terms I speak to them on. So they almost always start with a technology conversation, and they end with a conversation about how's this going to save me money or bring revenue in, right? Or how's this going to make my guest experience better, depending on who I'm talking to. And that's where the conversation lands. And so on the cloud side for us, we've had the advantage that because we've had such rapid growth and kind of crazy times for us, that we have a lot of costs embedded in a lot of different areas that if I can get rid of them and consolidate onto a cloud provider, there's some economics to the cloud in general, but quite frankly, just the consolidation activity has leverage to that. That's where the money comes in. That's an easy conversation to have with my finance folks. And then to the extent that I can show how these cloud providers who are highly incented to deliver sort of things that work, right? Because it's shared. And so that's, I think the biggest advantage of the cloud is that the providers have a much greater incentive to keep it running, have it secure, and deliver. And so those are the conversations I have with the guests on how that can happen.
Scott, sorry for the cheap shot there. I'll come back to you right now. So hotels have faced a myriad of customer experience challenges. What digital transformation projects have worked well for Wyndham?
No worries about the shot. I agree with everything Jeffrey said. When we talk about the carrot and the stick, it's about understanding your stakeholders and what's driving them. And in some cases, the carrot is lower costs. So to answer your question directly, what has worked and what hasn't, I think from an umbrella standpoint, the idea that cloud enables faster, cheaper development and in turn allows us to innovate, that's been pervasive and that works. It has allowed us to launch a new brand. For example, during COVID, we were able to launch an entirely new brand on a cloud platform. Would not have been able to do that 4 years ago in as little bit of time as that was. If we take a look at our two big customer groups, one of them is the franchisee. Again, those initiatives with a bottom line direct impact always work. We continue to roll out a cloud-based telephony system for them that allows them to route reservations to us so that they don't have to answer the phone at the front desk. That's huge for them, even in normal times. In COVID times and post-COVID times where labor is even harder to come by, that's a game changer because now their front desk agents don't even have to worry about that front desk phone ringing with outside reservation calls. We'll handle those locally for them. Another thing that's been really helpful for them is because of the cloud platforms, we've been able to roll out housekeeping optimization. Hey, do you want to skip housekeeping while you're here? Yes, I do. Great. The guest is happy. The franchisee is happy because they're paying labor on that housekeeping visit. The guest is happy because they may not want a housekeeper in their room during that stay. So that was kind of a win-win sort of solution. Pivoting over to the guest and what has worked on the guest side, it's really about serving them on the channel they want to interact with us on. Sanjay had indicated a little bit of this earlier, but that could be voice, that could be mobile, that could be texting. Heck, in some regions, that's WeChat. We need to ensure that our platforms connect into those channels so we can interact with the guests the way they want to be interacted with. So now flipping around, because David, you asked a poignant question there as well, is what hasn't worked as well? Really for us, what hasn't worked as well as we came out of this, and it coincided with COVID, unfortunately, is those initiatives that relied on the general manager or the assistant general manager at a hotel to be super engaged. And the reason for that is ultimately, I believe, they're out there making beds, they're cleaning rooms, they're welcoming guests, they're doing everything they need to do in this tight labor situation. So a specific example for us, we rolled out a cloud-based RFP response solution. So there's group business that may be interested in staying at your hotel. Click here if you're interested and you want to bid. We didn't see the take rate on that we were hoping for. Well, when we really double clicked into it, it was not a technology issue. It's a change management issue, which is where you started the conversation. It's a change management issue in terms of understanding what our stakeholders needed and recognizing, quite frankly, they're really busy. As soon as they can get their head above water, we believe it's still going to be a very good solution and ultimately a profitable solution for their properties.
Those are really good examples. Thank you. Christian, at Malia, what has been working? And if you could share things that may not have worked as well as you had planned, that'd be fantastic.
I'd say that everything we've done that increased the freedom, be it from the guest, the customer, or from the staff that's using the application, and reducing the effort or the experience, the friction of the experience works. In terms of customer experience, self-ordering from their app in the swimming pool and getting things delivered to them directly where they are sunbathing, being able to make reservations from the app for the spa, for the restaurant, being able to check the amount of people that's in the breakfast at a given moment, so they know if it's a good moment to go, or maybe it's better to wait for 15 minutes. So everything that gives freedom and removes friction, it's been working perfectly. I think that's the secret sauce. And we've been in a lucky, well, I can't say it's lucky, because I'll say that the positive thing of these months is that we've been able to test a lot of things with reduced operations and test affecting lesser the operation, and then grow a lot when we've had this marvelous summer that we are having right now. In terms of what didn't work, it's something similar to what Scott said. One of the things we've developed during this month is a chat system in the app, so the customer can chat with the different services that they are offering in the hotel. And some of the chat is managed by an artificial intelligence. Some of this chat is managed centrally in our contact center, but some of the chat is supposed to be managed in the hotel because it's very local things. So that's where the failure has been, because there was no one answering those chats. The people that was supposed to be answering those chats was doing something else at that moment, because the staff was cleaning rooms, doing beds, etc., etc. So that's the thing that didn't work as well as we expected, and we are thinking in other ways to probably we'll even centralize those things too.
Interesting. So the staffing has come up again and again in our conversation today. So let's pivot a little bit and talk about growth. Let's talk about growth for your businesses over the last 18 months. So how did you manage through, I'll say, during the crisis? And as you're looking to accelerate out of the crisis, how are you using and leveraging technology to help you achieve your goals? And maybe Christian, I'll start with you. And I'm going to ask each of you the same question.
Okay. So the movement into the cloud helps a lot with reducing the CapEx needed for the technology stack in the hotel. And that has helped a lot. And this is something that many owners of properties whose hotels we manage really liked. And it has helped signing a few agreements. Also the speed, and I think that's something one of my colleagues said before, the speed that we can provide now to the opening of a hotel helps a lot. Now, opening a hotel is something we do really fast because we don't need to deploy servers, and the friction in that process is very, very good. And there's something also that helps a lot, and is the ability to prove something that we thought we would never be able to prove, and is how the cost of the cloud aligns with your demand of process. And I remember talking to our CFOs and owners of hotels we were dealing with, and trying to convince them of moving to the cloud, because when you have a high demand, you'll be elastic enough to cover your demand. And at the same time, if your demand reduces and you have bad times, your costs will reduce the same way as your business does. But this moment never came until these months, when we have had the waves of business with months of increasing sales and increasing occupancy in the hotels, and then lockdowns, and then increasing sales, and then lockdowns, and you see the cost of your technology that aligns with the business. So this is something that also really helped, and showing it and has made more easy to explain the benefits of having a digital technology as the one we can provide to our owners and to our franchisees. And also the ability of having APIs and using cloud and modernizing your technologies and opening your systems helps a lot when you want to integrate with systems from 10, 15 hotels chain that wants to deal with us. So we can connect with them and we can integrate them with our distribution systems without forcing them to change their operating systems if we are just going to franchise them and distribute them. At the same time, if we are going to manage the hotel and we need to implement our processes and use our technology to operate the hotel, we can do it with a really low CapEx, and that helps a lot. And again, we are able to really fast providing analytics on how the business is performing on those hotels because of that ability to integrate with different systems and gathering data from our systems and from other systems, correlate them and provide a business view to the business owners of what's going on.
Interesting. Data is very important. Scott, new technology supporting your Wyndham's growth?
So as we look at this, David, I'd give you 4 answers here, actually. So first off is it's really pulled forward the adoption of some of those consumer-centric technologies, that consumerization of IT, mobile first, mobile as the center of everything we're doing. That's a given from here on out. The consumer direct marketing that I referred to earlier as well, enabled by the cloud, we believe is going to be a game changer as we come out of growth. Also our investment in the app. So we feel that as we went through this, we made some good investments during the downturn that we're going to be able to surf basically coming out of the downturn here as well. Something else that we've done is we're really partnering more than we ever have in the past. What we're seeing from consumers now is the desire for experiences. So something like a Via Tour, something like a food delivery. How do I incorporate that into my booking channel? How do I offer that to my guests that I perhaps never had offered at the economy segment or the economy level before? It's also allowed us to experiment more. When COVID hit, we had to cut our team size just like everybody else. So we all became a lot more comfortable or comfortable with our discomfort on doing more with less. So that has resulted ultimately in our team being willing to experiment. And I heard Christian say earlier and Sanjay, fail fast. And that's exactly it. And then finally, I'd be remiss as I look around, this panel, I feel it brought our industry together. I know during the downturn, David, you and I reached out to catch up and to talk about what are we seeing? We're going to get through this. Hang in there, man. I've spoken to several of my colleagues on this call, personally and professionally, understanding what they're doing, but also a little bit of commiseration. So coming out of this, I really do feel that our industry is tighter than it's ever been before, and we have a more common understanding than we ever did before.
Thank you. So this panel is part therapy as well. Okay, that's good. Therapy for
absolutely is.
Sanjay, what would you like to add here in terms of growth being supported by new technologies for Jumeirah Group?
I think in last 18 months or so, we have seen that how demand is being going up and down depending on how volatile the market is. And I believe this is the time when actually technology is playing a very, very important role. Whether you talk about cloud, which is the ability to scale up or down, or you need to introduce new solutions for the sake of experimenting that what suits our customer best. But everywhere technology is playing a very important role. I just want to highlight what Chris and Scott was saying something back about what has worked and what has not worked also. If you see most of the hospitality group, including Jumeirah, when this COVID was in our life, we came up with solution which I call brochure-based solution, which could be worked through QR code. I think that was a quick and dirty solution, but soon everyone realized that, if you really want to ensure that we are able to manage the operation with lean staff and we are able to provide still the best possible service to our guests, we need to move beyond the brochure-based application. And that's what Chris was saying sometime back. Probably each and every IT-driven hospitality group has actually developed the applications where the guest can order the F&B from anywhere. And I just have a funny incident I want to share with you that I was in a pool next next to a pool with one of my friends, and he was just checking our application there. You can just order the F&B, and then it in real time picks up which is the right kitchen and press the order there. So he placed the full order there, and then he said, "Sanjay, there is one mistake in your system." What's that? He said, "You have not actually asked where I am. I mean, you have not asked my location. So where will it deliver?" And trust me, to his delight, when after a few minutes he actually got his order to his place, he was thoroughly surprised. But this is what technology is doing. They are delighting the customer. So that's what I feel. I think technology, as of now, has a power to operate, to move the organization from automation towards autonomous. And it also has the power to see that how we can drive the change better by failing fast, experimenting, and then basically morphing the application requirement based on what the consumer is adopting faster.
Great. Jeffrey, I saved you for last because Sonesta certainly has had a tremendous amount of growth in the last 12 months. So could you share your perspective here on technology and how it supported your growth? You mentioned it a little bit when we kicked it off, but I'd like to hear a little bit more there.
Yeah, the growth has only been in the last 9 months. So when I joined, about 30 days later, we went from 50 to 150 hotels in one night. So we're really almost a 2x, 3x on that. And then a couple months after that, we added another 100 hotels to the portfolio. We took a little bit more time. We didn't do it in one night. We did it over, 3 weeks. And so, and then we went off and bought a franchisor. So we've had a little bit of growth. And the advantage, quite frankly, for us is that we kind of just looked at it as a greenfield, like it's almost like a startup, $1 billion startup, but a startup nonetheless. So we, are immediately on one consolidated PMS in the organization, right? Which is a huge, huge benefit to us. Now, we've spent a lot of time now that we're on it, thinking through, like, do we have a common process? Because we actually, we didn't have a lot of time to really think about what the common process should be. So that's our now is refining and leveraging that PMS to really accelerate the growth there. But the other thing we did, again, a little bit out of necessity, is contrary to the idea of building some large consolidated platform, we went with some point solutions for some very discrete needs. But we did so with the idea of either we will leverage them to grow, and that will become our platform, or we'll find a different platform, which is sort of the advantage of the cloud. And we did this on the RPA side. We implemented that for a lot of our OTA reconciliation because we just couldn't do it for the like we did with 50 hotels. I think it's already paid off in the first month, quite frankly. It was a pretty huge ROI on that, but we built it in a way that it will be our RPA platform for other needs of the organization, right? And we're doing the same thing on the data side, where we went out and went to the cloud and are leveraging multiple different cloud data insight solutions. Not sure where that's going to go. It's a little bit of an experiment to see if we can bring them together or if we'll replace them over time.
Wow. Tremendous growth. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
And a little tiring.
Okay. Well, so just pivoting here a tiny bit. So the past 18 months have had their fair share of challenges. But my question is, was there anything positive that came from all of this that will help move the industry in a better direction? I'll start with Scott.
So absolutely there is. I think if I were going to sum it up, there's two big items. One, we force our industry to be more data focused. Traditionally, this industry is relationship focused. We know that, and it's who you know and what you know and what's going on. During the depths of the pandemic and everything, we had to be data focused. How are our hotels performing? How are we performing? Where do we want to make our investments? That's huge. And that's been amazing. Secondly, is it forced all of us to identify what matters in terms of innovation. There's nice to have, and then there's need to have. And really boiling it down to, I need to have this. I need to have a contactless check-in solution because my guests are mandating that right now. Nice to have could be the texting back and forth, but I need to have a check-in solution. So it really helped crystallize a lot of our priorities as we move forward.
Great examples. Sanjay, can you share anything?
Yeah, I agree with you that, basically there are a number of things which is driving the technology forward. But I would just like to focus on two things. One is the artificial intelligence. I think this is one area probably which is upcoming in the hospitality industry, if I may say so, because in other industries, whether you talk about the automobile or some other industries that are different level, probably we need to see that how that will be better utilized in the hospitality world going forward. And I believe that these are the new things which are coming. I'll just give you a simple example. When I was talking to you, David, sometime back, we were discussing about how the rooms are getting allocated manually by a room division 24 hours before the guest check-in. Do we really need that? Or can we have an AI engine which can auto-allocate the room? These are the questions which are coming in everyone's mind. And this is, I believe, is a great outcome which has come in last few years, because we were constrained with resources, we were constrained with budget, but still we had to provide superior service. And only technology can do that.
Wonderful. Jeffrey, can I ask you to share?
I think in a word, it's forced us to be more resilient and agile. It's by definition, we've had no choice to do that, right? And I think a little bit to I think what Scott was saying, when you're thinking through what's need versus nice to have, that's sort of how the agile thing and the resilience shows up, right? Is what can move, what can we just stop thinking about entirely because we have to focus on some other areas. That in spades.
Great. And Christian, for Malia, anything?
I would say there were three things that we are concentrating on. I think the most of the industry was efficiency on one side, customer experience and digitalizing the customer experience on the other, and that advanced analytics. And all this situation has increased the speed in our industry towards those goals. Efficiency has been a must. We need to be, I think Scott said that, we need to do the same or more with less. And it's been a situation where we could test new projects and do new things in that direction. The safety of our customers, of our staff, also has moved us into a less contact or less friction process for our customers. When they check in, when they check out, when they do reservations, they can do everything with more freedom and less need to contact anyone if they don't want to. And the lack of visibility we have during this month, especially at the beginning when we didn't know what was going to happen and when it was going to happen, has also helped a lot to put efforts into gathering more perspective on more intelligence from the little data we had at every moment and react more quickly and more automatically to events. So I think the main outcome, the main positive outcome of these 18 months is that what we were going to do in 3 years, we've done in 18 months.
David, sorry to interrupt. I just want to add one more point here. Being in from the airline industry, sure. Being from the airline industry, where online check-in is there for last 12 or 13 years. Till date, the adoption is not something which we are proud of, and that is what I want to highlight, that though there is a lot of focus on contactless check-in, but in the end, the objective is to provide a choice to our guests, what they want to do. And I'm not saying that we should not be doing contactless check-in, because there is a big segment of our consumer who will adopt that. But trust me, we need to ensure that we are able to provide standard set of services across different channels, whether we do provide that services manually, or we do it through automation, or we do it through the traditional mechanism. But it's all about providing the choice.
Great. So Jeffrey, any last thoughts you like to share?
Well, maybe I'm just naive, but I think one of the things that we're all seeing is that human contacts matters, and that's good for our industry. And it's something that I keep in mind as a technologist to sort of remind ourselves to not put technology in between those humans, because that's really what makes an industry that is special and valuable. And I think we're seeing the human condition right now value that, and I'm excited to be part of an industry that can help that along.
Scott, any further thoughts here as we begin to wrap up this panel discussion?
There's never been a better time. There's never been a better time to be in technology. We are the enablers of the business, as some of my peers have said. We can take a leadership position from everything from a guest experience to the franchisee experience to our team member experience. Hybrid's going to be here to stay. We work to help define that hybrid experience. We work to help define how to make that, as Jeffrey said, as frictionless as possible, and recognize it's about connecting human beings on a common goal. So I've never been more excited to be a CIO. It's never been harder, but it's never been more fun.
Fantastic. And Christian, anything you'd like to add?
I am also very excited. But what I would add is that to anyone adopting technology and starting a digital transformation process with technology is not to let go easily into adopting just servers out there to lower your footprint. Use that to transform your company. In the future, the more agile company is the one that will succeed better. And technology now, as it was 20 years ago, and it's been in some other moments in the history, it's an enabler for the transformation our businesses need.
Thank you. Well, look, that was a great discussion, gentlemen. I know there are many viewers out there that are still trying to define and implement their own move to cloud. And I'm confident what you shared today will absolutely help their journey. And for those who are watching, please feel free to reach out to us at Oracle Hospitality anytime to discuss your opportunities and challenges you're trying to solve for. Thank you and have a wonderful day, everyone.